Back off. Elias growled, knife clenched in his fist, blood caking his fingers. I don't care how hungry you are. The beast didn't move. Yellow eyes locked with his unblinking, unreadable. Its chest rose and fell in slow, deliberate breaths, its body half-crouched, ready, but not lunging. The chunk of raw meat lay between them, still steaming from the kill Elias had dragged in minutes before. It wasn't much. A lean, four-legged native creature. Tough hide, but edible. Elias shifted, his side flaring with pain. The gash across his ribs was deep, patched with a torn sleeve and dried blood. 3 days lost behind enemy lines, for with no real food, and now this. Some kind of alien wolf, twice the size of any earthhound, all muscle and silence. He dropped to a knee, panting. You gonna charge, or you just here for the show? The wolf took a slow step forward, eyes flicking down to the meat. Elias didn't move. The blade in his hand stayed low, ready but not threatening. The creature sniffed once, twice, then eased forward and took the meat, retreating 2 steps as it chewed. Elias slumped back against a tree trunk, letting the knife fall from his hand. Guess we both needed that. They sat like that for a while, man and beast in reluctant truce. Elias watched the animal devour its share, sinew tearing under long fangs. Every movement was efficient, patient, like it was used to surviving one bite at a time. He could relate. You're not dumb, Elias muttered. Could have killed me easy, but you didn't. The creature looked up, licking blood from its snout. I'm not dying out here, Elias said, more to himself than anything. You hear me? No answer, just that steady stare. He reached into the fold of his belt and pulled a strip of flesh he hadn't eaten yet. Carefully, keeping eye contact, he tossed it toward the beast. It landed in the dirt. The animal sniffed it, took it, and settled beside the fallen log with a low grunt. Elias exhaled. I'll call you Ghost, if you're sticking around. The name felt right. Pale fur, mottled with streaks of dried mud and blood, silent movements, eyes like old fire. Ghost didn't react to the name, but he didn't leave either. That was enough. By the next morning, Elias wasn't alone anymore. He limped through thick ferns with Ghost padding behind him, steps unervingly quiet. Every few minutes Elias would glance back, half expecting the creature to vanish, or worse, pounce. But Ghost remained, 10 paces behind, watching, following. They moved carefully. Vral patrols had been sweeping this sector since the last bombardment, and Elias knew better than to broadcast his position. His comms were fried, his squad gone, killed or captured. He had nothing but a combat knife, a half-charged plasma pistol, and whatever instinct hadn't been burned out of him over years of fighting. Ghost stopped suddenly. Elias froze, eyes narrowing. Then he heard it, metal scraping metal. Quiet but close. He dropped flat against the ground. Ghost sank low beside him, motionless. A squad of Rao soldiers passed through the clearing ahead. 6 of them, armor matte black with blue-lit visors, rifles cradled in smooth, clawed hands. Their movements were precise, disciplined, a machine wrapped in flesh. Vrau were bred for this war. Genetically tuned, hive-disciplined, tactically ruthless. Elias counted seconds as they moved past, breath shallow. When the last one vanished into the trees, he exhaled slowly and turned to Ghost. You felt them before I heard them, he whispered. Ghost blinked, unmoving. Elias crawled out of the undergrowth and kept walking. Ghost followed. By midday, they found a stream. Elias drank first, then knelt and splashed water onto his face, watching the blood spiral away from his cheeks and neck. He could see the infection beginning in his side, red veins, heat beneath the skin. Ghost stood watch beside him. You're not one of theirs, are you? Elias said, voice hoarse. Vral don't breed pets. They make killers. Ghost didn't respond, but Elias saw it then, a line of scars across his flank. Old burns. Surgical, deliberate. Like someone had tried to implant something. Ghost wasn't wild. He was discarded. You were one of theirs, Elias muttered, and they left you to die. That made them the same. Broken tools. Abandoned. Later that night, while Elias tried to rest beneath the twisted canopy, he dreamed of Earth, of the training yards in Alberta, of his sister's voice. Then the dream twisted, Vral faces in the dark, cold claws reaching and fire raining from above. He woke to growling. Ghost stood at the edge of their small camp, teeth bared, tail rigid. Elias grabbed his pistol and rolled his feet just as a Vral scout burst through the foliage. The creature didn't see Elias, it saw Ghost, and hesitated. Ghost lunged. Claws tore into synthetic armor. The Vral screamed, short and sharp, before Ghost dragged it down. Another figure followed. Rifle raised, but Elias fired first, plasma punching to the side of his helmet. The third tried to run. Ghost chased it down. When it was over, the clearing reeked of blood and ozone. Elias sat down hard, pressing his hands to his temples. Shit! Ghost returned slowly, jaw dripping. He stopped in front of Elias, dropped a piece of shredded fabric from his mouth, and sat down. Elias stared at him. You're not just following me, are you? Ghost stared back. You're choosing this. He didn't know why it mattered, but it did. Maybe because it made everything else. Every death, every order, every goddamn inch of burned ground. Feel a little less empty. He stood, gritting his teeth through the pain. Come on. We can't stay here. Ghost rose beside him. Together, they vanished into the trees. Not hunter and prey. Not soldier and beast. Survivors. For now. You're walking closer, Elias said, not turning around. Either you're getting brave or you're tired of being alone. Ghost didn't answer. Just the steady sound of paws on wet soil, the occasional crackle of leaves beneath his weight. They'd been moving east for 2 days, following the direction Elias hoped still led toward human territory. The stars were wrong here. Virex Prime spun on an axis too fast for comfort, and the light never stayed long enough to feel real. Elias stopped near a gnarled tree and crouched low, checking the bindings on his ribs. The infection had slowed, or maybe his body had just grown used to burning. He adjusted the knot, grimacing. Ghost watched it with ears flicking. Keep staring, and I'll start charging for medical lessons, Elias muttered. Ghost sniffed the air, then walked ahead a few steps before pausing. Elias didn't ask why. He'd started trusting the creature's instincts more than his own. Ghost moved like a machine, silent, deadly, exacting. But the beast also had moments of strange patience, like he was waiting for Elias to catch up, not just physically, but in some deeper way. They reached a rocky outcrop by late afternoon. Below, nestled in a natural dip in the terrain, lay the remains of what had once been a Vral outpost. Scorched panels, twisted steel pylons, and the faint scent of cooked circuits. Elias dropped to his stomach and scanned the perimeter through a cracked lens scope. Abandoned, he said. Or bait. Ghost crouched beside him, tail low. Only one way to find out. They entered cautiously. Elias checked corners and corridors, Ghost clearing ahead. Most of the tech was useless, slagged by plasma fire or stripped by scavengers, but in the back, half buried under debris, was a communication console. Elias knelt beside it, brushing ash away. If this works, I can call a relay, maybe get a signal to the main grid. He set to work. Ghost curled up in a nearby corner, eyes half-lidded but alert. Elias noticed a position, angled toward the doorway, with his flank exposed. Vulnerable, but only to someone he trusted. You really were one of theirs, Elias said softly. But they let you go, or left you. He'd seen it before. The Vral engineered beasts like Ghost for infiltration and suppression, used until broken then discarded. Efficiency above all. If something couldn't be controlled, it wasn't repaired. It was erased. He powered the console. A dim blue hum lit the room. Bingo. Static flared. The message system was intact. Barely. No live comms, but it could pulse out a low-band signal. He started crafting a short distress beacon, using ID codes he hoped were still active. As he worked, Ghost rose suddenly, body rigid. Elias looked up just as a shadow passed over the doorway. They moved in silence. Vral, 3 figures. One stepped in, rifle sweeping. Ghost exploded into motion, jaws snapping. The first soldier went down without a sound. Elias shot the second, bolt searing through armor. The third hesitated, just long enough for Ghost to drag it down. Then it was over. Elias knelt beside one of the bodies. Black armor, blue visor, elite recon unit. No doubt others would follow. They know we're here. Ghost stood over the last kill, tail stiff, hackles raised. Elias touched the console. Beacons active. If they're listening, they'll come. They made camp inside a half-collapsed corridor, using debris as cover. Elias checked his pistol. 2 charges left. He looked over at Ghost. Blood covered the beast's snout. His breathing had barely changed. "You're not just following instinct," Elias murmured. "You knew they were coming. You killed like a soldier." Ghost shifted slightly, but didn't meet his gaze. Elias leaned back against the wall, pain creeping up his side. "You're not their monster anymore." Ghost moved closer. For the first time, he rested his massive head near Elias' boot. Morning came in a gray blur. The forest outside was quieter than before. Too quiet. Elias knew the Vral didn't retreat. They calculated, measured, watched. He set up a perimeter of rudimentary traps, tripwires, sound triggers, and 2 pressure mines salvaged from the fallen soldiers. Ghost watched him work, then started assisting in strange, subtle ways, pushing branches into better concealment, blocking exposed angles with debris. "You're learning from me," Elias said, "and I'm learning from you." That night, as they waited, Elias found himself staring at the creature beside him. "You don't have to stay," he said. "You've done more for me than half my old squad." Ghost didn't move. Elias sighed. "Suit yourself." The next day, Elias stumbled upon a blood trail. Not human, not Vral, something else. Ghost tensed as they followed it to a shallow ravine. There, another Diarico, leaner, scarred and limping, lay curled in pain. It snarled weakly when Ghost approached. Elias raised his pistol, but Ghost stepped between them. "You know it?" No answer. The wounded predator lunged suddenly, mouth wide. Ghost met it midair with a brutal tackle. The 2 rolled, snapping and clawing. Elias raised his weapon again, but held back. Ghost fought not to kill, but to dominate. It was a test, feral hierarchy. When the fight ended, the other Diarico lay pinned, breathing hard. Ghost stood above him, victorious, yet didn't deliver the final blow. Elias lowered his pistol. "You're not fighting for food, or territory." He watched as Ghost let the beaten creature limp away into the woods. "You're showing him a different way." They returned to the outpost in silence. Later that evening, a low hum in the console signaled reply, a faint ping from a human relay ship. Elias smiled. "They're coming." Ghost stood at the edge of the corridor, gaze fixed on the woods beyond. "They'll see you and think you're a weapon," Elias said. "Maybe they'll be right." He paused. "But I'll know better." Outside, somewhere beyond the trees, a high-pitched whine split the stillness. More Vral. Elias checked his pistol, then looked at Ghost. "Ready?" Ghost bared his teeth. They moved back into the trees together, no longer prey. Something new had been forged in this broken wilderness. Not a bond of command, but a choice of mutual defiance. And as the shadows closed in once more, neither turned away. The extraction ship was 3 days out, maybe 2 if the pulse relay held. Elias checked the beacon again. Still transmitting. Still hope. Ghost stood motionless at the tree lean, ears twitching, body poised like a loaded spring. Elias knew that stance. Something was wrong. He moved beside him slowly, scanning the horizon. The forest ahead was too still. No birds. No rustle. Not even wind. We're being watched. Ghost growled low. They doubled back to the outpost, packed their supplies. What little remained, Elias looped a repurposed data core into the beacon to act as a backup transmitter. If they had to leave it behind, it would still pulse the location. He looked once more at the console, then turned to Ghost. We move east. Ridge line gives better visibility. If they're coming, we'll see them before they see us. Ghost didn't need convincing. They traveled for hours in silence, climbing broken stone, slipping between ash-covered trees. The burn scars of war visible even here. Carbon-blasted trunks, cratered soil, bones. By nightfall, they reached the ridge. Elias set up a minimal blind with thermal shielding and low-spectrum dampeners. The sky glowed faint green from aurora arcs far above. It would have been beautiful on any other world. He sat back against a rock and pulled a ration from his belt, half charred but edible. Ghost sat nearby, chewing through a bone he dragged up from a forest. Elias chewed slowly, speaking between bites. I used to think we were the monsters. Ghost paused, one eye on him. Humans. We showed up, took planets, claimed peace while pointing guns. He shifted his weight, the pain in his ribs returning. But the Vrow, they didn't even talk. Just assessed. We were either a resource or a threat. Ghost dropped the bone. And you're what they left behind. A weapon that wouldn't obey. But you stayed with me. Fought beside me. Not because they told you to. Elias met his gaze. Because you chose to. The next morning, the first drone appeared. It hovered at tree level, a black oval the size of a crow, silent and sleek. Elias spotted it just as it was retreating. They know where we are, he said. We got hours. They moved again, up the ridge trail, pushing higher into thin air and jagged rock. The vantage gave them a clear view of the valley below. And that's when Elias saw them. Vrow infantry, at least a dozen, moving in staggered squads. Coordinated. Closing in. This isn't patrol. Ghost's low growl confirmed it. They want you back, Elias said. Or, they want you dead. Ghost's gaze didn't flinch. You don't owe me anything. If you leave now, they might not follow. Ghost stepped closer, until his shoulder touched Elias's side. There was no fear in him. No hesitation. Elias swallowed hard. Then we fight. They fortified the ridge. Elias rigged charge lines across narrow choke points, buried spikes in blind corners, set traps laced with salvage explosives. Ghost moved through it all with eerie precision, never misstepping. By late afternoon, the Vrow came. It started with plasma fire arcing across the rocks. Elias ducked low, returning 2 shots before diving behind cover. Ghost circled wide, vanishing into the fog-laced trees. The first wave hit the traps. 3 soldiers down instantly. Elias gunned down a 4th. Then came the second unit, flanking through a side path. A shriek rang out. Ghost lunged in the shadows, crushing one under his weight. Claws raked another. Blood sprayed across moss and stone. The 3rd soldier hesitated. Elias didn't. 1 bolt. 1 more body. The ridge became a battlefield. Minutes stretched into hours. The final push came as dusk fell, four elites moving together, sweeping methodically. Elias took 2 hits to the vest and dropped behind a rock. His pistol's battery was nearly drained. Then he saw Ghost, bleeding, limping, but still moving. The largest Vral charged him, spear weapon drawn. Elias fired, missed. Ghost dodged left, lunged, caught the Vral's arm in his jaws and wrenched. The spear fell. Elias tackled another, knife sinking deep. Silence followed. Only 2 left. Elias lay gasping, ribs screaming, pistol trembling in his grip. Ghost stood beside him, body heaving, blood matting his fur. The last Vral dropped its weapon. Stop. Elias gasped, raising a hand. The creature didn't move. Ghost stepped forward. Elias nodded once. Do it. It was over in seconds. Elias collapsed, back against a stone, staring at the darkening sky. Tell me that's the last of them. Ghost limped to his side and dropped heavily beside him. I don't care what command says, Elias muttered. You're not a tool. You're not salvage. You're my partner. Ghost lowered his head to Elias's knee. Hours passed. The stars blinked into view. Then, distant and small, a shimmer of light. Engines. Elias blinked rapidly, vision blurring. Extraction's here. He triggered the beacon flare. A dull pulse of blue light lit the ridge. The ship circled once, then dropped. A team of humans in gray armor disembarked, weapons raised. Identify, one barked. Elias raised a weak hand. Sergeant Ward, 5th Recon, ID 92 Beta Kilo. The soldier nodded. Speaking into his comm, found him. Alive. Barely. Another step forward. You okay, Sarge? Elias gestured toward Ghost. He's with me? Several weapons lifted instantly. Elias raised his voice. I said he's with me. The team paused. Ghost didn't move. The first soldier frowned. That's a DRA call. That's a damn Vral engineered. He's not theirs, Elias said. Not anymore. A long pause. Then the team lead spoke. Understood. Medics approached. Elias was lifted onto a stretcher, wincing. He looked back. Ghost stood at the edge of the clearing, waiting. Let him board, Elias muttered. Or I don't go. There was silence. Then the ramp lowered. Ghost stepped on without a sound. Elias watched from the stretcher as the bay closed behind them. No words. Just a quiet moment between 2 things once meant to kill. Now something more. And far below, the forest reclaimed its silence. Elias woke to silence. Clean, sterile silence that hung behind his ears. The kind only found in med bays or space stations where no real wind ever blew. White lights overhead. Monitors beside him. A healing wrap across his ribs. A shadow moved near the doorway. Ghost. He sat silently, massive form tucked into a corner too small for his size. His fur had been cleaned, injuries treated, one leg wrapped tight with medical mesh. A collar blinked softly around his neck. Tracker, likely, or suppressor. Elias clenched his jaw. You didn't deserve that. Ghost lifted his head, but didn't move. Elias tried to sit up and failed. His body betrayed him, heavy and raw. They let you stay. That's something. But not much. A human stepped through the door. Female, tall, uniform too crisp. She didn't smile. Sergeant Ward. Elias didn't answer. You've been unconscious for 30 hours. Your vitals are stabilizing. You're lucky, but I assume you already know that. He pointed to Ghost. What happens to him? That depends. On what? On whether he's still considered Vral property or something else. He's not property. I read your report. Impressive detail. But it reads like a justification. Elias narrowed his eyes. He saved my life. He made decisions. Defied programming. That's your interpretation. It's fact. He disobeyed kill commands. He fought to protect me, not himself. She studied him. Gaze cool. We're not here to kill him, Sergeant. But you understand what this looks like. Bringing a hostile bioweapon aboard a human ship. One with no restraints or neural leash. Elias looked at Ghost. He came willingly. He could have vanished into woods, and they never would have caught him. Silence stretched. We'll observe, she said finally. He'll remain under monitoring for the duration of your recovery. After that, decisions will be made. Elias didn't respond. She left without another word. The next week passed in fragments. Sleep, painkillers, tests. Ghost remained nearby, moving only when forced. He didn't resist scans or blood draws, but he didn't offer trust either. Only to Elias did his posture relax. That small, quiet bond held. One night, when the ward lights dimmed, Elias spoke again. They think they can classify you. Ghost's ears flicked. They don't get it. You're not a pet. You're not a weapon. You're a mirror. He turned his head. I saw myself in you. The worst parts. The anger. The instinct to destroy when cornered. But I also saw something else. Mercy. Restraint. And choice. Ghost let out a slow breath and lay his head down. A week later, they moved Elias out of the med bay. He walked slowly, leaning on a rail. The station's viewports opened onto a field of stars, black velvet stitched with fire. Somewhere beyond that lay Virex Prime, just another scarred world. He reached the observation deck and found Ghost already there. Someone had removed the collar. Elias moved beside him. They're still deciding, aren't they? Ghost said nothing, but his tail tapped lightly once against the floor. I think they're afraid of what you represent. Behind them, a door hissed open. The same officer returned, this time with a small data pad. We've reached a decision, she said. Your companion is to be transferred to Orbital Lab 7. Observation and behavioral analysis. Elias tensed. That's a prison. Not officially. He didn't do anything wrong. He's not human. No, Elias snapped. But he's more human than some of the brass sitting behind those terminals. She hesitated. Just a second. Then, there's one alternative. Elias waited. Conditional release. Under military supervision. Restricted zones. Permanent tracker. You be assigned as liaison. You mean handler. Call it what you like. Elias looked at Ghost. I'm not interested in chaining him for the rest of his life. That's your choice. But if you refuse, he goes to Lab 7. He exhaled slowly. What do I have to sign? Later that night, Elias found himself in a different room. Bigger, more comfortable. Ghost paced slowly, sniffing corners. Free, but not free. Monitored. Judged. I'm sorry, Elias said. It's the best I could do. Ghost turned, eyes soft. I won't treat you like property. You don't owe me loyalty. If you ever want out, really out, I'll help you disappear. The DRA co stepped forward and nudged Elias's shoulder with his snout. Not escape. Understanding. Days became weeks. They ran drills. Tests. Joint simulations. Ghost adapted quickly. Too quickly. His capacity for learning unnerved the officials. He didn't just mimic. He innovated. Used tools. Predicted behavior. Intervened without prompts. He began communicating in gestures, posture, pattern. A silent language between soldier and beast. No words. Just intention. One evening, during a sim exercise, Ghost intercepted a rogue drone midair and dropped it at Elias's feet like a gift. That was unexpected, said the watching technician. Elias smiled. He's showing off. They try to restrict him. Ghost pushed back, not violently, strategically. When barred from training zones, he waited, then activated the pressure door with his snout. When denied access to Elias's quarters, he clawed a coded pattern on the panel until security had no choice but to revise the lock. Each time, Elias vouched for him. Each time, Ghost watched the humans watching him. I think he understands hierarchy better than we do, Elias said one day. The officer frowned. Or he's testing limits. Same thing. 6 months later, the reassignment came. A new conflict. A colony breach. Another world on the edge of war. Elias stood on the tarmac, watching the dropship prep. Command wants us forward, he muttered. First contact may be hostile. Recon plus support. Ghost sat beside him, body still. You don't have to go. Ghost turned toward the ramp. Elias followed. As they lifted into orbit, leaving the station behind, he sat beside the DRCO in the hold. No one spoke. No one asked questions. They weren't just bringing a weapon anymore. They were bringing something born of war, shaped by mercy, tempered by choice. The kind of predator that chose peace, even when it had teeth. And for the first time in a long while, Elias believed humanity had something worth learning from.